Hello, this is Shafiur Rahman. Welcome to the Rohingya Refugee News podcast. After publishing my piece on the Malaysian coverage of the Langkawi tragedy, I felt there was more to say, especially about the questions journalists are not asking and the policies those silences protect. Let's talk about how Malaysian media is framing the recent Rohingya boat tragedy off Langkawi. If you open the newspapers, you see headlines like Police Interpol hunting syndicate behind Langkawi tragedy. The story is familiar. A transnational criminal network, smugglers exploiting desperate refugees, regional coordination to hunt down the masterminds. It sounds serious, decisive, righteous even. But pause for a moment. This narrative is doing something very specific. By centering syndicates, the story shifts responsibility away from states and onto criminals, without interrogating how state policy creates the conditions for these journeys in the first place. Let's take a New Straits Times article. It's a perfect example. It covers international police coordination, interviews with survivors, descriptions of how boats were organized from Cox's Bazar in Myanmar, payments to smugglers, overcrowded vessels, and deadly conditions. On the surface, it appears thorough, it's tragic, it's detailed, it's investigative. But here's the problem. The entire article moves from the premise that the tragedy is the fault of traffickers, full stop. It never once questions the role of states in producing the conditions that force people to sea. And more importantly, the article never asks the most critical questions about Malaysia's own actions. Let's list what is missing. It doesn't ask, were Malaysian vessels tracking the boat before it sank? Because that changes everything. If authorities knew and did nothing, that's not a tragedy, that's abandonment. Are disembarkations delayed in these cases? Because delays kill. Boats often sink after rescue is refused. Were boats pushed back? Pushbacks are when a state forcibly escorts refugees back into open waters to avoid taking responsibility. They're usually illegal under international law because they amount to refoulement. Did non-assistance contribute to deaths? This is crucial. Non-assistance isn't passive. It's a policy. It's when states allow boats to drift, knowing people are starving or drowning, so that arrival numbers stay low. None of these questions appear in the article, whether in the case of Langkawi or other disasters. The story ends where the police narrative begins. Crime, trafficking, syndicates, victims. That framing absolves the state of responsibility and turns a structural political crisis into a policing operation. Here's what we know. People smugglers exist because states block safe routes. They operate because refugees are locked in camps, denied movement, denied rights, and denied pathways to safety. If you close legal routes, you expand trafficking networks, trafficking markets. It's basic economics. But Malaysia's media coverage never connects these dots. It treats smuggling as a standalone evil rather than a predictable outcome of state policy. And there's a final omission that is almost universal in Malaysian reporting. People aren't boarding boats from Rakhine State or Cox's Bazar because of abstract conflict or difficulties. Rohingya are fleeing genocide in Arakan. And in Bangladesh, they're fleeing ration cuts, camp militarization, police crackdowns, and the slow, deliberate erasure of their future. That pressure is regional, yet Malaysia reports the story as if the problem begins the moment a boat enters Malaysian waters. This selective storytelling matters because it legitimizes a policy architecture built on distance and deterrence. Malaysia rescues bodies but refuses rights. It performs compassion without offering protection. And when media refuses to ask the real questions, the public never sees the bigger truth. These aren't accidents. These deaths are policy outcomes.